Hello everyone, it's Laura here from See Clear Counselling and welcome to video 4 in the series of negative automatic thoughts. So this week we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into reframing your negative thoughts and also look at moving you from a negative bias into a more positive bias. So we've been looking at negative automatic thoughts over the last 3 weeks, and in the first video we identified what negative automatic thoughts are and how they can influence your emotions, your feelings and your behaviours. In week 2 we took a situation and looked at how it's not the situation that can cause those emotions and feelings and behaviours for you, but it's actually the thoughts that you have and how you interpret those thoughts that lead to all of those emotions and feelings. In week 3 I took a situation of my own and demonstrated to you how my feelings of not being good enough and feeling inadequate meant that I didn't want to do some homework I had for a course, and that actually by changing and reframing my thoughts I was able to reduce my anxiety and actually change my emotions and my behaviours. So that reframing of your thoughts is really important. So if you've been writing down some situations and being aware of your negative automatic thoughts that you have, then you'll start to understand how you can start to be in control of your thoughts now you know that they're happening and what those thoughts are. So the next step is to reframe them, because what's happened is with our negative thoughts we're looking at the negative bias all the time, and what we want to do is move it into a more positive bias. So that's how we reframe our thoughts. So for example, this morning I lost my purse. Now I could have easily gone into catastrophic thinking. I could have panicked, had high anxiety, been in consistent worry about it, and I could have had all these thoughts around I've got to change my cards, I've got to cancel my cards, I've got all that work to do, I've got to phone round so many people, this is an absolute disaster. But what I did instead was I heard all those thoughts that were going on and I stopped. I took a step back from it, I took a few deep breaths, and then I started to look for the evidence for my negative thoughts. Would I really need to be cancelling my cards and phoning up all the card companies to cancel them? Would I really have no money for the day? What had really happened? So I took a bigger perspective. I didn't just stay in that tunnel view of my negative thoughts, and actually started to look around for more evidence about what might have actually happened with regard to my purse. And I realised I'd been at my friend's yesterday afternoon and I'd come away very quickly from there and probably hadn't picked up my purse that I'd taken with me. So a quick phone call to my friend confirmed that my purse was on her kitchen worktop and I could go round and collect it, and all of the worry had gone. No anxiety, no panic, everything was okay. So by actually taking a step back and reframing my thoughts, it enabled me to be in a much calmer place. And that was so much nicer for me. You know, all that anxiety and worry and panic is a horrible place to be. To actually be able to step back and feel calmer about the situation and know what's more realistic means that I can just get on with life and I don't have all that worry and panic going on. And really that's what we all want in life, isn't it? For life to be much calmer, happier and easier for us. So through the week where you've been looking at your situations that have caused you negative thoughts, really start now to reframe those thoughts. Hopefully you've been practicing that during the week, but you really need to practice this a lot. It's not going to change overnight. We've probably been in this negative bias place for an awful long time. So moving across to this positive bias place is a really difficult thing to do. And it just takes practice. So it's keep practice, reframing those thoughts. So each time you're in that situation, take that step back, take a few deep breaths, think about the situation from a wider perspective. We call sometimes that helicopter view, looking down on the situation and seeing what's happening. Maybe look at how a friend might look at it, or how you might talk to a friend when they're in a similar situation. And then start to reframe those negative thoughts. Another good exercise to move us from this negative bias over to this positive bias is to start thinking much more positive thoughts. So another good exercise for this week is to keep what we call a gratitude diary. Now, a gratitude diary means writing down the things that you're grateful for each day, all the good things that happened to you, all the things that gave you enjoyment and the positive things. Again, in the beginning, it's probably going to be quite hard to find all those things. We'll probably go to the negative bias and think of all the bad things that happened. But what we need to do is move to that positive bias and think of all the good things that happened in that day. And then before you go to bed at night, write down 2 or 3 good things that happened. If you do that every day, you'll be reading good things before you go to sleep at night. And you'll be reading good things when you wake up in the morning, because I want you to read it again when you wake up in the morning. So that means that you're going to bed with positive thoughts in your head and you're waking up with positive thoughts in your head. We're training the brain to think more positively, so it'll make it easier to move from this negative bias over to this positive bias. So that's what I'd like you to practice this week. And I say practice hard. It takes a lot of practice and it doesn't come easily. But if we continue with this, together we can live a more healthily life, a more mentally healthy life even. So I look forward to seeing you in video 5, when we're actually going to take a deeper dive into where these negative thoughts come from, because they actually come from something called our core beliefs and have probably been sitting there for a long time. And that's why we need to start moving that bias away from them towards a more positive and different bias. So check in with me next week and we'll look at core beliefs. But for this week, just keep on reframing those thoughts, moving them from here over to here. See you next week.